Proverbs 17:3. The crucible is for silver, the furnace is for gold, but the Lord tests the heart. Hello, my name is Jade and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Supernatural had me screaming my voice raw this week, so you know what? Let's talk about it. This episode starts out in Black Forest, Colorado, which gave me Wendigo vibes, but whatever. I honestly thought that this episode was going to be a callback to Season 1, Episode 2, just because of the similarities between the beginning of this episode and the beginning of Wendigo, but guess not. The comedic relief in the beginning was good. Dean was a little extra with pouring the whole bottle of water on himself, but okay, Dean. But then we took a dark turn. The hunt with Sam and Dean went by oddly fast, which of course we know. If the monster is dead and there's 30 minutes left of the episode, then something's up. And something definitely was up. 2 girls get killed during this attack, and 1 survives. Sam and Dean go to talk to her, and Dean ends up comforting her and says he'll protect her, and all that jazz. The victim who Sam and Dean were trying to protect turns out to be none other than Lilith, who was brought back from the empty by God in order to play out his story.
Well, this is a bitch.
I did not see that coming whatsoever. See, I knew we were getting characters back from earlier seasons. I just was not expecting this in this episode, but it happened, and the way it played out was awesome. Lilith ends up telling Sam and Dean that God is still writing their story, and that God brought her back from the empty with intent. Which means Sam and Dean are still being toyed with by God. I was thinking that this was coming when Dean ended up sleeping through her getting taken, because it just didn't seem right, you know? I cried through Sam's nightmares too, by the way. Seeing him get shot between the eyes, not fun. Seeing him get killed by Dean, also not fun. I will say though, Jared Padalecki still never ceases to amaze me with how well he portrays Lucifer in the show. I get chills down my spine every time I see him in that white suit. Lilith ends up finding the equalizer gun in the Impala where Dean left it in the glove box, and then she melts it right in front of Sam and Dean, which I would assume was per God's request. Which makes sense considering the equalizer gun is the only weapon that is known to the Winchesters that has any ability to hurt God whatsoever. Sam finally ends up telling Dean about his nightmares towards the end of the episode, which he explains he thought was PTSD, but he comes to the conclusion that he's seeing different endings that Chuck is writing for them, which I predicted last week.
I thought they must have been some form of like messed up PTSD, but what if they're not? What if I'm somehow seeing Chuck's endings? You know, different ones.
How would that be possible?
I'm glad that Sam actually said PTSD, by the way, because I like when the show is able to acknowledge the things that Sam and Dean have been through and how it affects them to this day. The ending scene in the bunker broke me. Seeing Dean so happy about finally being free from God in the other episode was like really cool, but every inch of hope that he had was completely shredded by the end of this episode. This season is really taking me for a whirlwind, and we know that from here on out, God is manipulating the set. He doesn't have a direct influence over Sam and Dean, but he has influence over the people and monsters around them. My point is, Sam and Dean cannot be directly influenced by Chuck himself, but their environment can be. From here on out, I'm not gonna really trust anybody in this show except for Sam and Dean and Cass, because anyone else who comes back, I'm gonna assume is coming back to push God's story forward, or is being used to hurt Sam and Dean in the long run for God's entertainment purposes. As I said last week, I don't think Sam and Dean are going to die at the end of the show. Now that Sam and Dean both have knowledge of the fact that God wants them to end with one brother killing the other, they're going to be able to prepare themselves for that and take preventative measures to make that not happen. Sure, that's going to be difficult to do, considering God's influence over their lives is always going to be looming in the background. But because Sam is connected to God and is seeing the different endings for himself, there are ways that we can deter from that. That is, unless God is planting these things in Sam's head for the purpose of throwing him off. But considering the way Becky spoke about the ending that Chuck wrote, I think it's safe to assume that what God says is what God means. Writers lie though, so I have no clue. Sam is going to be the key to finding God, though. The next episode is called Golden Time, but the synopsis for the episode after that was just released. The episode is called Last Call. It's the 7th episode, and the synopsis says, Dean goes off on his own to take on a case. Meanwhile, Castiel has an idea how he can help Sam track down God. As Sam explained, the way that the gun works, Sam has a piece of God in him, God has a piece of Sam in him. If they're connected through the bullet wound, which they definitely are, then I'm thinking that Cass is going to devise a plan to use that bullet wound to their advantage. Maybe using a spell of some sorts, or maybe something along the lines of that, in order to track God through Sam. So, time to talk about the next episode, Golden Time. Last week, and the week before that, I think, I told you guys that Rowena was slated for the next episode. But after checking the SPN wiki today, she's not on the list anymore. Misha is still listed for the episode, and he's seen in the promo, but Rowena isn't. So I honestly have no idea if Rowena will be back at this point. I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see with this one. But the promo for the next episode looks intriguing. There's something I wanted to point out. This girl right here, who you may or may not recognize, she is the same girl who Sam and Dean got Chuck's address from in season 4, episode 18, The Monster at the End of this book. Guess she's a witch now. Great. In the promo, there's a shot of Eileen in a bathtub, the witch having the same purple eyes that Rowena seemed to have in season 13 when she powered up with the Book of the Damned. And also, might I add, it looks like there's someone with red hair in front of her, possibly Rowena, but I don't know. In the next episode, Sam and Dean are going to be visited by an old friend while Cass looks into the disappearance of a local teen. Last week I said that old friend was going to be Rowena, but because Eileen is seen in the promo, I'm gonna say my final answer, Eileen is the old friend, obviously. I'm gonna guess that the disappearance that Cass is looking into is going to lead us into the whole situation with the witches. I am glad to see Cass back, though. I was happy to see that Sam was texting him, but of course Cass is ignoring him. I bet if Dean was the one texting him like that he would, respond like that. I'm gonna predict that the next 2 episodes are going to be mainly focused on the hunts that come their way, but there's going to be the underlying note that Chuck is controlling what happens around them. We won't see Chuck until the mid-season finale, which is titled Our Father Who Aren't in Heaven, which is the same episode where Jake Abel, who plays Michael and Adam, is slated to return. In the episode Last Call, I believe that Cass and Sam are either going to succeed in tracking down God, or at least come pretty close, which would lead us into the mid-season finale, which I don't have any predictions for yet, except for what I said last week in regards to Michael and God. If you want to hear me talk about my predictions with Michael and God, make sure you check out last week's video, which I will link at the end of this video. With that being said, I know this video was kind of short this week, but I am super excited for the next 2 episodes that will lead us into the mid-season finale, and I can't even. I really liked this episode. Of course I really liked this episode. When isn't there an episode of Supernatural that I don't like that's not season 7 Time for a Wedding? Anyways, so far, I think this season is fucking great. I don't really have any complaints. We've seen a lot of familiar faces already, and we're starting to get closer to the end of the actual show itself, which hurts to think about. But with all that being said, that takes us to the end of this video. I know it was short, I apologize, but I'm really excited to see how the next 2 episodes play out and lead into the mid-season finale, and I really can't wait to talk about it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like weekly Supernatural content. Also, make sure to check my links down in the description below for my Instagram and my Twitter and my Discord servers. I'll also leave that on the side over here or on the other side, whichever I decide to do when I'm editing. So I will see you guys next week for the episode Golden Time, which airs on November 21st, which is next Thursday. Thanks for watching. I hope you all have a nice day and don't get possessed by any demons. Bye!